So Dad and I are at Colonial Williamsburg, and we are checking out some things. We have learned so much about our colonial ancestors, some of whom were right here in Williamsburg. Behind us is a tobacco barn that's like they've recreated it from like the 1600s. And Dad, how many ancestors do we have that came in from England in the 1600s?
Four or five. You mean the Marteaus, the Cobbs, Hookers? Lots of them.
Into Jamestown, so we're going to see Jamestown. We have people at the Houses of Burgesses. And on the Governor's Council.
Wow.
So let's see what we can find out in Colonial Williamsburg.
All right. Our family has 5 members of the House of Burgesses and 3 members of the council that after a while met in this building. They were originally at Jamestown. Colonel William Cole was in the House of Burgesses from 1715 to 1726. And the Burgesses and the council members were on both sides of our family.
So both through Rebecca Tucker's family as well as through William Augustus Reedus's family, we have ancestors to see. So let's go inside and see what we can find out.
Burgesses meet to introduce bills, discuss those bills, and to vote on those bills where they're then sent to the king's side. The upper level on the other side is where the governor sits with his 12 appointed council members. Now the Speaker of the House of Burgesses sits in that chair right there. He's surrounded by well over 100 burgesses, where 2 are elected from each of the counties in the colony. Mary, what might be named after King William in his honor? Williamsburg. Remember, when they moved from Jamestown, this was called Middle Plantation. And he was the king at the time when this was laid out. In 1689, the English Bill of Rights was established, and 6 or 7 of these articles comes from the English Bill of Rights, word for word.
Deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety.
Very well, thank you. Could you come back and come on?
I have members of the House of Burgesses and of the council on both sides of my family.
And this is the Governor's Council and where the Governor's Council met.
So this is Bruton Parish in Williamsburg. We're in Colonial Williamsburg, and Dad and I actually have some ancestors from this very area. Bruton Parish was built, this building was built in 1715, and this particular site is interesting because my great something grandfather, Robert Cobbs, actually gave 5 pounds of silver to help build this building behind us.
To the glory of God and in memory of the vestry of 1674 through 1683, who erected the first brick church upon this foundation, the Honorable Colonel Park, etc., and there is our ancestor, Robert Cobb.
And my father and I actually sat in this very church where our ancestors went to church and went to midday prayers and read from the Book of Common Prayer. While this was an Anglican church in colonial times, it's now an Episcopal church.
Simply that in 1607 in May, Englishmen, 104 of them, landed here. About the Powhatan Indians, it's actually because they're worried about the Spanish, who call this land Florida del Norte, who had already been here several times, who may come back with a vengeance if they find you trying to build a fort here, which they claim would only be used for piracy. It's not inaccurate to say that if you know the story between the two countries. They built a triangle-shaped fort, and we found it from basically 1994 to 2003, and then we found out something.
I am standing here at Jamestown beside a monument to the Burgesses, the first Burgesses here at Jamestown, and one of them is my 9th great-grandfather, ancestor, Captain William Tucker.
Standing here in historic Jamestown in the church that was rebuilt in 1907, this actually was the place where several of my ancestors were part of the original House of Burgesses.
the site of the home of Nicolas Marteau, the adventurous Huguenot who was born in France in 1591 and came to Virginia in 1620. He died in Yorktown in 1657. He was a captain in the Indian Uprising, a member of the House of Burgesses, Justice of the County of York in 1635, a leader in the thrusting out of the Governor Harvey, which was the first opposition to the British colony policy, the patentee for Yorktown, and through the marriage of his daughter Elizabeth to Colonel Reed, he became the earliest American ancestor of both General George Washington and Governor Thomas Nelson.
It's easy to see why the Reedus family was such a big family about reunions when you consider that one of Mama Moore's ancestors was Marteau, related to George Washington. You can't go back much further than this. The Reedus family must be very proud to have him in the line.